Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is MG Govia. I'm the Education Outreach Liaison here at Okie 811. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about the upcoming law updates that's going to take place no later than November 1st of this year. If you haven't already been to our website or looked over the YouTube channel, there's already some resources out here for you to look over those law updates. And I'm kind of going to go high level. I don't want anybody to start making those changes so early. Like I said, it's going to be effective November 1st. So between now and then, it's just more about preparation, knowing what's going to happen so that you can start kind of transitioning to those differences. So if you don't catch everything in this high level presentation today, our resources, like I said, our YouTube channel, our website under the law, plenty of opportunities for you. And then if you need to, you can always email me. My email address is education@okie811.org. So let's dive into it. Let's start talking about the updates regarding the law. So first, I'm going to just list them out, and we'll go into details about all of them. So first of all, the life of the ticket will be 14 calendar days. Right now, it is 10 business days. So it's going to eliminate the weekends and holidays, have just 14 calendar days as the life of the ticket. Mandatory response is going to be required for the members who are the facility owners and operators, the excavators, obviously those who made the request that they're going to be digging. And then of course us, we're going to have mandatory positive response data collection. So we're going to be sure to record all that response for all the parties involved. There's going to be provisions for the state of emergency declarations in case anything like COVID happens for a long period of time or anything like that, to give some reprieve for the timelines of the locate request. So we'll dive into that here in a moment too. Required damage reporting, that's going to be letting us know when damages occur, so for better data tracking and also sharing of information back to the owner and operators. Also, there's going to be better defined excavator responsibilities. So it kind of breaks down exactly what is required around hazardous pipelines. And then the things that we're really going to dive into is not only the responsibilities around the hazardous pipelines, but also the liability for emergency tickets or misuse of them, I should say, as well as excessive and unreasonable updates on tickets. So today's webinar is going to be focused on the excavator side. If you are a member company, an owner or operator of underground facilities that also does excavation, keep in mind we're going to be focusing on the shovel side of things. And if you have any questions on the membership side, feel free to email me. We'll dive into that at a later webinar as well. So first thing we want to talk about is how it all started and what law is being updated. If you're not familiar with it, the law is called the Oklahoma Underground Facilities Damage Prevention Act, and is based on two principles. First, the operators of the underground facilities need to be members in good standing with us and let us know where those facilities are and what personnel to contact when digging is taking place near those underground facilities. Then the excavators need to give us notification of digging, and that's going to be no less than 48 hours, excluding the date of notification, weekends and holidays. If you haven't seen this stuff, go to our website, okie811.org/the law, and you'll be able to find it. If you just remember okie811.org, under our about, you'll see the law link. First thing we want to talk about is the ticket life being 14 calendar days. So I have a couple of examples that we've drawn up here to give that illustration. First one is when a request is being made on Monday, November 1st, right? So the request is going to come in. You're to give 2 business days, not counting the date of notification, before the work is to begin. So calling it on Monday the 1st, that day does not count. 2 business days, Tuesday and Wednesday would be the notice, and the earliest that you could dig would be Thursday morning at 7:30 or 7 a.m. And so that's the work to begin date. The life of the ticket is going to be 14 calendar days starting from the 4th. So 4th is day 1, Friday would be 2, and so forth, until you get to day 14th, which would be the expiration on Wednesday, November 17th. That would be when that ticket would fade out. If work is going to continue beyond the 17th, that call would need to be made on the 15th so that the work would go through the 17th and then your new ticket would begin on the 18th. Okay. A couple things to look at on this example is Veterans Day there on November 11th. It didn't factor in any way, shape, or form in that 14 calendar days for the life of the ticket. Okay. So that's the default notice. That's I called in, 3 business days later, I'm ready to dig. So a timeline of that, again, November 1 would be day 1, November 15th would be day 14. So that's the when the update needs to be made. The 18th, which is 14 days from when the work to begin date, which was the 4th, would be when you need to update it. And then the 17th would have been when it was expired. Okay. So on the next example, we're going to talk about default notice around the holidays. So on this one, the request is being made on November 10th. Now on the request, weekends and holidays do count. So the 10th is when the request was made. So that day does not count. The 11th, which is Veterans Day, does not count. Business day 1 would be the 12th. Business day 2 would be the 15th. So the earliest you could begin would be the 16th on this one. And then the life of the ticket, you don't care about weekends or holidays. So day 1 would be 16. Day 14 would be the 29th. But when you make your update, you do need to remember about the holidays because you're getting notifications. So on the 23rd, you'd make your update. The 23rd doesn't count. 24th doesn't count. The holidays do not count. And so your work to begin date would be on the 30th. So on these, the easiest way to remember on this is find your expiration date. Then the date after that will be when your update needs to begin. And then you go back 3 business days for your update date. So on that timeline, the ticket was originally put in on Monday, November 10th. The work to begin date is November 16th because of the holidays and the weekends. The expiration of that ticket, if not updated, would be November 29th. If you do need to update the ticket, it needs to be updated on November 23rd so that you can begin or continue working on the 30th after your ticket expired. Okay, so 14 calendar days. Here's broken down just another direction. I'm not going to rattle this off to you. I'm going to give you one more example just to keep in mind, because we always talk about the earliest you can give is no more than 3 business days, no less than 3 business days, but you can give more than default notice. So on this example, we call in on the Monday the 1st. We'll let the CSR know that we're going to be working not until the 9th of November. So that's more than the 3 business days. So now you're just working from the work to begin date time. So the 9th would be when the work is to begin, and then your 14 calendar days go from there. Again, not worried about Veterans Day. And then you'll go to the 18th, which will be when you need to update your ticket so that you continue working on the 23rd, because your 14 business days from the work to begin date was on the 9th and 22nd. Okay. All right. So on that one, the ticket was submitted on November 1st. The work to begin date was set by the excavator as Tuesday, November 9th. So because it's 14 days, it would expire on the 22nd, if not updated. If you do need to update the ticket so you can continue working past the 22nd, you would work backwards to the business day of the 18th. And then that way your work to begin date on the update request would be on Tuesday, November 23rd, the day after your original ticket expired. Okay. So let's talk about mandatory positive response and what that is and how that works. So positive response, by definition, is just clear communication of a status of processing the locate request so that the excavators can confirm the response prior to excavation. And then that's also the responses that OK811 has so that we can have on the ticket prior to the work to begin date. So the first mandatory positive response is our members. The facility owners and operators, they are required to provide positive response to each notification they receive. That is the status of the locate request. We've been out there, there's painted flags on the ground. We weren't able to get back there, there's access issues, or it's all clear, or we need to request um, being on site, anything like that. That communication is going to be sent back to us through the portal, and that portal information will be then shared with the excavator who made the request. The next part is going to be the excavator side of things, what they have to do. And what it means by this is that the excavator has to check from a response from all companies on the locate request prior to the work to begin date and time. So before they can put a shovel on the ground, before you can start verifying markings and making sure that where the underground facilities are located, they are required by law to check the status of the ticket, make sure that everybody's responded, and if somebody hasn't responded, putting in a second notice as a complimentary notice that someone hasn't responded, so they can come out and take care of that and communicate where those lines are. And in addition to that, OUFDPA's role in all of this is to hang on to that information. We're going to have that portal hub for the excavators and the member companies to communicate with one another, and we will keep that information so that if there's any disputes or any questions regarding that, we can share that information. There is going to be provisions for the state of emergencies. Like I mentioned earlier, if something happens where maybe there's an area that's been affected by extreme weather, other virus outbreaks, anything like that, where the workforce of locating companies or member companies would be affected. If a state of emergency is put out there, then that gives the member companies more than just the 48 hours. Hopefully this doesn't come up, but they've been put into the law to give some leeway or forgiveness on the response time if workforce or circumstances make it where the 3 business days isn't enough time for the member companies to respond. Okay. And that's only when a state of emergency is declared. This isn't something where the facility owner can go, well, it's an emergency to us. No, it has to be through the government to make that declaration before the law isn't applicable on the timeline. Next thing is the damage reporting to OUFDPA. It's going to be required by law. When damage occurs by an excavator, accidents happen, that call needs to be made to us in addition to reaching out to the underground operator. By reaching out to us, we can collect data, we can help damage prevention efforts to the member companies as well as the excavators having a track history with them as well. And then that way we can hopefully produce great damage reporting and damage prevention programs through that. So it's going to make it where it is required by law to report any damages to us so that we can improve our data collection to help data or damage prevention. So now we're going to kind of turn the corner on things that are really heavy on the excavator and the changes that are going to take place with the processes of the excavator. First is going to be just better defined excavator responsibilities. One is going to be the preservation of markings. So when working around pipelines, if there's yellow markings on the ground for oil and gas, if those markings disappear due to weather, traffic, livestock, anything like that, then once those markings are gone, then work has to cease and stop, and then another request is being put in, and no digging can take place if the markings have not been preserved. Okay, so we'll talk about that through this. It just reminds you, hey, you always have to call, and then it says that anytime that a ticket is not called in, that the excavator should be responsible for those damages. So this is just a reminder, hey, always contact us, you'll be fine. That gives the member companies an opportunity to mark and protect their underground facilities, But if you ever do work without calling in, then you'd be liable for any damages that occurs. Then you would need to preserve those markings around the hazardous materials. And if the hazardous material markings ever disappear, stop work, give us a call, put in a second notice or update so that those locates can be put back out there to get the markings in place. And this is where the maintenance of those markings come into play. And then the thing that really sticks out is fraudulent requests. And there's two types of fraudulent requests that unfortunately has occurred. One is no work taking place request. So this is when an update is being made or a locate is being put in, and again, tickets for 14 days. So if work isn't taking place within 14 calendar days, then the excavator can be liable to the owner or operator for reasonable cost of markings. So if it happens once, hopefully there's some communication. Don't put in locate request till you're ready to start work, and then if they see it again, then they can actually invoice the excavator for the cost of those locates when no work is being done. Okay, so you always want to make sure you're planning your work properly and not putting in notices too early, or if work is going to stop for a period of time for going to a different project site or anything like that, that you stop your updates and then come back and update the ticket when work is going to resume. Okay, there's no reason for tickets to be going if work isn't taking place. The next topic is a non-emergency emergency request. This is usually on the homeowner side of things, but just in case, if there isn't proper planning and there's a claim that an emergency or an endangerment to life, health, or property is taking place, when there isn't, then the owner or operator of that underground facility can then turn around and say, hey, this is a new install for brand new construction. This isn't an endangerment to life, health, or property. Here's the invoice for causing an emergency request when there isn't a emergency request. So this one, highly recommend. Make sure you're planning your work correctly. 3 business days notice at least, and that you're not calling in fraudulent emergency requests. You always want to make sure there's a true endangerment to life, health, or property, and that you're also giving as much notice as possible to give the member companies enough time to respond, even though you're digging in less than 48 hours, not including the data notification, because of that endangerment to life, health, or property. Okay. So, like I said, my goal today was to be a high level on the law changes. I wanted you to kind of just see the wording of it, why these things are taking place, and hopefully give you an idea of what to expect and when you're making your process changes. Most of it is just better communication, whether it's the emergency request, no work taking place request, whether it's preservation of markings, the mandatory response. All those things are just improving the communication concept of the one call process. Okay. Um, I don't show any questions being submitted, so if you do have any questions, feel free to throw those my way. I'm going to just kind of give you some information to help you out as well. You can always go to our website, ok11.org, under education. There's A11 certification that you can do. Totally free for you, opportunity for you to learn all things A11 to help you with your crew and work site management, and all things one call as well. Okay, doesn't look like any questions are coming in, so I'm gonna wrap this up with just a reminder. You can always email me. My email address is education@ok11.org. I did receive one question about a copy of this presentation. Absolutely, you can go to our website, ok11.org. That from our website, you can have the link out to our YouTube page as well as the resources under education, and this is already available and online, as well as the law update as well. If you want this particular copy, good news, you already have it coming to you tomorrow as an attendee. It'll come into your email where you can access this webinar at any time. Okay, so great question. If you need any other things, email me, like I said, education@ok11.org, and I'll be happy to help out. So with that, I thank you all for joining me today. I'm looking forward to helping you and keeping your work crews safe and preventing damage in the state of Oklahoma. Enjoy the rest day. Thank you. Bye.